sir. God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir.
It's taking you a little bit to go to.
We're ready here. We're ready here, sir. We're ready.
It's taking a second. Hold on.
It says it's streaming. On my end, it says it's streaming.
Are you listening to us, sweetheart?
Then your end is all that matters.
Well, let's wait a minute.
My end.
How many times in life do you hear somebody say their end is all that matters?
It's live. It's on YouTube.
That's very funny, Judah. That's very funny. That's very funny.
On that note, I want to welcome everyone to the world according to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. I want to welcome everybody that's listening and watching on YouTube. Amazingly, Parler's been down for over a day and a half. So
is that really amazing?
It is. Well, that's a long time. And
may I ask a question, sir? You're the computer wizard, not me. I know barely how to turn it on and off. What does that mean? It's down.
It means that you can't access it. You can't be on it. You can't use it. Never mind. I wasn't going to give a crude reference, but I want to remind everybody that we are on Rumble now, rumble.com. Go to Rumble, download the shows. Even if you watched here, or same thing with Apple. Remzo's going to be helping me a little bit out tonight with doing that stuff. We welcome tonight from American Greatness, Ben Boychuk. Welcome back. How are you, Ben?
I'm great. It's great to be back. Are you broadcasting from an empty auditorium, Judah? Or
yes, exactly. It's my patriotic empty auditorium. But it's good to see you. You might not look good, but might not feel good, but you look good.
You look great.
Because he's bald.
Look great.
And of course, welcome as always, the man that's on the run, the Batman himself, Remzo Martinez.
I thought he was the cat man.
I upgraded.
But after last show and his Batman references, he's now the Bat and the cat, anything that rhymes with bat. But of course, this show wouldn't be complete without America's humble servant, provocateur, saint, sinner, lover, philosopher, mathematician, statistician, economist, actor. But of course, let's not forget, Dr. Benjamin Jeremy Stein.
But does he take Medicaid?
I'm sorry?
But do you take Medicaid?
I don't take any insurance, sir. I don't take, and not only that, sir, I don't have any patience.
I humbly disagree with you on that one. I think you have quite a few patients.
Well,
they shall go nameless. But on that note, welcome all to the world according to Ben Stein. And right off the bat, I wanted to get into something. I'm not feeling great, as some of you know. I've been a little down, a little sick.
He's been very brave. He's put up with terrible discomfort and has been very brave.
Thank you, sir. But I want to discuss something. It seems like we're the country on the path on the country to nowhere. You know, those expressions they use towards the bridge to nowhere, or the highway to nowhere, whatever that expression was, sir. But the way I look at it now is as a construction project, right? You know, you start on mile one. By the time you get to mile 200, mile one needs to be redone.
Oh, that's clever.
And I almost look at the way our country is running right now, the way the vaccines are being doled out. By the time everybody has gotten their vaccine, they're going to say to the next group, the first group, you've got to go and get your second dose. You've got to get your third dose. And I almost feel like I don't believe people have trust in this process. And it's a very scary thing, because I don't think anybody knows what they're talking about, Ben. And would you go and get your third round of shots?
I had a very bad reaction to my second shot, to the booster, and I don't know. I'd like to have a pretty clear idea of why I needed a third one. One of the nurses who takes care of my wife told me that it was absolutely essential that you get a booster now in 6 months after having gotten your first booster. I hope that's not true. So, to me, and I could be totally wrong here, I often am wrong, I think a basic mistake was made in the creation of the COVID vaccine, because so many people I've talked to have had very adverse reactions to it. Now, true. This is data, not data. This is anecdote. But I would love to see some survey data about how many people have spent some serious discomfort after the first shot, and a second shot rather. I'd be kind of scared to know what's going on. And just this afternoon, I read an article about how apparently there are long-lasting psychological and psychoactive harm caused by COVID and possibly by the vaccines. So this kind of frightens me a bit.
I have been noticing you have been acting a little weird.
Well, a little, I'm afraid.
But Ben Boychuk, I asked that question to you too. It's do we have any faith? And do we have any faith?
Oh, sure. Any faith in institutions? Not
in
so much.
In what's going in the treatment, in the diagnosis, in anything that's going on right now.
Well, I think that a lot of people are just optimistic that this round of vaccination will at least, let everybody get back to some semblance of what's normal. The idea of a third shot in 6 months doesn't appeal to me very much. And I think even a lot of people who were embracing the vaccinations wholeheartedly would probably say, wait a minute, can we see some more documentation on that? I just, for the record, I got my first shot, I guess about 2 weeks ago. However the math works out, my next one's in a couple of weeks. And,
be prepared, my dear friend.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the first shot wasn't exactly a walk in the park. I wasn't feeling wonderful for about 12 hours. I had a very powerful burning sensation at the injection site, and in the middle of coincidentally, I suffered an injury back in March. And so the inflammation that thing caused. By
the way, just for the record, you're referring to painful and burning because of the shot.
Because of the shot, you sicko. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, the back injury is from a sex act. So
I
wish
fat man know about this thing.
Yeah. It's the stupidest injury in the world, but there's no need to get into that right now. No, I think that people, and I've heard all the stories too. And Ben, your account of your second dose was chilling and compelling. I've had other friends who've said the second shot was really, really, really rough. But my mom got it and she's 84 and had absolutely no side effects whatsoever. So your mileage will vary. But to your main point in your question, Judah, I think overall things like this, where people are encouraged to get this vaccine to help their communities, to help their families or whatever, and then they're told, well, just one more thing, it's just like 15 days to stop the spread, right? Or to flatten the curve, which turned into a year to flatten the curve. And so you have institutional voices lying to people all the time. At some point, people just stop listening.
No, you're completely right. And I want to get to something else, another topic that
doesn't the Batman get to say anything?
Yes, he does. And I was going to go to the Batman, who's actually, can I say it out loud, Remzo, or is it a secret?
I'm Batman. Was that the confession?
No, that you've actually had COVID.
Oh yeah, I think I screamed and cried out loud about it. I had COVID and pneumonia, so COVID pneumonia for 90 days at the beginning of the year, and it sucked. I'm not getting the vaccine. I have not gotten the vaccine. And, one of my snarky liberal friends was like, yeah, but what if they start coming for you? And I'm like, good luck, because I have guns. And if that doesn't work out, I'll run naked and I'll butter myself up. So good job catching me.
That's
you
it.
Don't
That's
do
all
that
you
every
got.
day. That's how I get to go shopping.
It's so it keeps with the complexion.
So Ben, my next question is, since Remzo had so much to share on that topic, my next question to you is,
catch me, huh?
Do you think people you don't hear it a lot in the news about the side effects, yet every single person you tend to speak to that's had the second vaccine, especially from Moderna, has had vicious side effects. And there's two things. I don't think the media is reporting on it because they don't want people to not get the vaccine. And I think people are scared sheepless into not saying they got side effects for two reasons. One, they don't want to deter people from getting it. And the second is they think it's almost like, well, it's worth it because I didn't get COVID and I'm not dead.
Well, the number of percentage of people who in this country who got COVID and died of it is extremely small. Obviously, I don't in any sense belittle it. Any is too many. But the idea that this was a plague that was going to wipe out the population like the Black Plague did in the Dark Ages, that was always nonsense. The idea that the second shot of the vaccine is going to wipe out the population is also nonsense. But to me, a medicine in which hurts a very substantial number of those who take it is a very questionable medicine. And to your basic question, do we trust the government? Do we trust the drug companies? I don't trust the government, and I don't trust the drug companies. I mean, I've seen so many terrible reactions to people taking various drugs. I really don't have much faith in what the drug companies say about their medicines. I mean, I have some faith, but not a great deal of faith. I'm scared about this idea of having to take a third booster, and then why not a fourth, and why not a fifth? And who knows what these boosters do? I mean, a
lot like the stimulus package, they just keep on giving the booster.
Well, wait a second. Now I hope we can put some meat on these bones, my boy. We're saying something really extraordinary. We're seeing vote buying on a scale that has never been seen before in any Western country, or maybe in any country anywhere. This country is basically masterminding the bankrupting of our children and grandchildren to stimulate the Biden, what's the vice president's name? I forget.
Harris.
Comrade. And to bankrupt this nation for the benefit of a small clique of Democrats. This to me is very, very frightening. I mean, we are in active process of bankrupting the nation. Yes, easy money to fight the recession. Absolutely, it was brilliant. Yes, lots of government spending, but 19 trillion on things that are so strange and unrelated to the COVID. This is just pouring money down a giant hole in the ground. It's just astounding how the money is going out. Have we no concern whatsoever about the well-being of our descendants? None.
No, we don't. And Ben Boychuk, I go to you on that. Do you see an end in sight on this, or is this just going to keep going until maybe we take control of the House?
Well, it won't stop then.
Herbert Stein, call your office.
Exactly. As my father said, a brilliant mind. He really was an effing smart guy. If a thing cannot go on, if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. And this will stop in the bankruptcy of the United States of America. I, your humble servant, will be dead by then. It won't matter to me. It's going to matter a lot to my incredibly sweet granddaughter, Coco, a little living doll. It's going to matter a lot to her, a hell of a lot.
Oh, God, it's so funny how sometimes when you think you have nothing to talk about, now there's so much to talk about, because one of the things I'm curious to know, Ben Boychuk and Ben Stein and Remzo, is this idea that the left's idea that you could tax your way out of everything. And Ben Stein, you're sorry?
Not a chance.
No, I understand that. And now they want to do the death tax up to 61%. On the richest. What's the point in making money? What's the point in making?
Wait,
to be able to leave it to your children.
You let these other young people answer first before I, an old people, answer. A person answers. Let these kids answer first.
Remzo.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that bankrupting the nation's a bipartisan affair. I became a libertarian through the testimonies and books written by Congressman Ron Paul of Texas, primarily when he was running for president in 2012, when he was talking about the dangers of the Federal Reserve and Republicans wanting to go ahead and rank up spending for defense and other programs, much akin to what the Democrats wanted to spend on their own select programs. They went ahead and laughed at him. And I'm very deeply afraid that within not the far future, but the near future, we're going to both have frontrunner Democrat and Republican nominees for president disagreeing on small things, but agreeing that the best way to get out of the national debt is to print our way through it.
But what we're doing, that is what we're doing right now. The chickens have not come home to roost because there has been such a severe drop in what we economists call velocity, name is the business activity, but that's coming back fast. Unless some miracle happens, and miracles do happen, unless some miracle happens, we are in for severe inflation and a devaluation of the dollar, not just in terms of gold, but in terms of the dollar itself.
So here's more of a question, Ben. So I support cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin and that type of stuff, but I have a lot of friends that are buying into all these new virtual digital currencies, and they keep saying, well, it's because, we're gonna get runaway inflation and everything. And I agree, inflation's a threat, but I'm also telling them it's like, I'm not gonna go ahead and take my life savings and put it into something like Bitcoin, because if you're basically saying that we're gonna get to a point where you're all going to need an app and this fake money in order to buy a can of Coke, then that basically implies that the United States is not here. So what they try and tell me is, well, you're saying that Bitcoin is nothing. Well, the Federal Reserve is basically printing money that's nothing. And I'm like, no, it is backed on something. It's backed on America. And as much as I might not like the Federal Reserve System and our current rate of inflation, if you're basically saying that the dollar is going to collapse, you're basically saying that America is going to collapse. And if that's going to happen, we've got bigger things to worry about.
There's absolutely nothing behind Bitcoin or Dogecoin or any of these things, and they are running up in value fantastically. I have never seen a bubble quite like it. Buffett says it, Munger says it. There's nothing behind it but bubble thinking. Maybe we'll all be wrong, but there's never been a bubble that lasted. And this is the biggest bubble there's ever been. There's never been one that lasted. Never. And what makes anyone think that this will be the one that lasted? There's nothing behind it at all. The tulip mania had at least tulip bulbs. You could eat a tulip bulb, or you cannot eat a Bitcoin. There's nothing behind it at all, but it is a mass hysteria. And people are making money. My son, the world's most, optimistic human being, is now speculating in Bitcoin. I said, well, fine, then I don't have to pay your allowance anymore. Oh, no, I still need money from you, Pop. Pop worked hard at the grindstone, traveling all around the country, happily giving speeches. Tommy, my boy, I love you like mad. Fantasies rarely pan out.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I mean, I bug other libertarians with this because they go into Bitcoin, they go into this Dogecoin that is almost hitting $1, and I don't think they understand what they're doing. It's all out of spite. It's all a game. And I asked a friend of mine that put a large chunk of his savings into Dogecoin. I asked him, "Do you know what it does?" And he's like, "That's not the point." And I'm like, "If you don't know what it does, that's the worst reason to invest in something." I mean, I agree. I go off the Warren Buffett school of thought. Kevin O'Leary is an investor I try and learn a lot from. For me personally, if it doesn't generate cash flow, the answer is no. So when it comes to Bitcoin and stuff, it's not worth it.
Well, look, gold doesn't generate cash flow either, but gold
is real, at least.
Gold is extremely real, and has been.
And you know who owns it?
Store of value forever.
You can actually feel your own gold. You could actually feel your own gold. But Ben Boychuk, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Well, my immediate thought on that, and 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago now, I think, I had a couple of friends saying, you really got to look into this stuff. And this one guy has done very, very well with it, except who knows what's going to happen, right? I mean, I don't trust anything that isn't quite tangible either. Just out of curiosity, Remzo, you said your question back to your pro Dogecoin folks was, do you know what it even does? For those of us who don't know what it does, what does it do?
Yeah. It was supposed to be another method of exchanging value for value. And
there's no value to it except in fantasy land.
You're absolutely right, Ben. But that's the thing, though, with Bitcoin. If I want to go ahead and send Bitcoin to Boychuk, we could do that right now. If I want to do the same thing with Dogecoin, I can. But the thing is, there are stores, there are businesses that will let you pay for products and services in Bitcoin. They don't allow you to do that in Dogecoin. So my bare minimum is, if we're not willing to even accept it by both identifying that this is a good exchangeable currency, then it serves no function. And that's been my criticism of all things.
Of materializing people's fantasies and ambitions of getting something for nothing.
Agreed.
And your chicks for free. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening.
Believe me, it's not for free.
You are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Remzo, please tell people where they could find us and get us.
If you want to send me all your Doge and Bitcoin because I've scared you, I'll send you my wallet address later. Go ahead and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review so that way you and everyone else can go ahead and share the fun, entertainment, and the information that we give here 3 times a week. Go ahead and subscribe, hitting the bell icon above so you always get a notification. And subscribe to The World According to Ben Stein on Rumble. And if you can't get any more, but you want more, because why not? More is always great. Subscribe to the newsletter, benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com.
Welcome back to The World According to Ben Stein. That was actually a great discussion about Bitcoin. I was actually shocked to hear that from Remzo.
Dude, like, I have gotten into so many stupid fights with people about this. And in my first book, Stay Away from the Libertarians, I talk about Bitcoin, and I talk about the concept of cryptocurrencies as being positive. But there's a difference between having an intention behind something that serves a real purpose and putting something into nothing just because you think it's funny and you'll get rich quickly. That's how people always lose their money. That's how they always make the most impulsive decisions. And that's why I own 0 Dogecoin.
And on that,
God bless you. I mean, I'd like to go back to what I was saying 2 minutes ago. Please, I've never seen a chat. I have a very close friend who follows the chat. If someone could come up with an example of a totally worthless thing that has risen meteorically in value, with having no useful properties except as a vehicle for people's fantasies, please send it in.
That's an exceptional question, an exceptional point. I highly doubt. I'm not going to doubt it, but you never know. Somebody might have the answer to that. But let's veer off this Bitcoin thing. And listen, this isn't an affront. If somebody wants to gamble on Bitcoin, knock yourself out and gamble on Bitcoin.
But why not go to Vegas, where at least there are really pretty girls wandering around the casino?
And the transaction fees in Vegas, or at least, except with women, are a lot less. Because the transaction fees with Bitcoin is exceptionally high. And even that question, I wonder, who's getting the transaction fees other than the companies? The companies seem to be making a lot of money.
5 people.
5 people.
5 people. Jack Dorsey, another individual who I used to work for as an employee, who I will not name, Mark Zuckerberg, the CCP in China, and several other individuals. 3% of Bitcoin owners own 99% of the Bitcoin circulating in the market. So why would I want to go ahead and buy something where it's just going to go ahead and immediately make someone a twice return on something that also doesn't really exist? It makes no sense.
So to the person in chat, I think the better name for the game show is Win Ben Stein's Bitcoin. That would actually be the better game to play.
We found tonight's title.
and not to go on a morbid thing, but it's not morbid. I want to get to this. It seems like we're a year and some odd change into this epidemic, into this brutal thing that China unleashed on us. And yet we've had what appears to be Ben Stein, no hearings. And the reason I bring this up today is Ben Boychuk, how do you pronounce his name? Bolsonaro's?
Bolsonaro.
Well, thank you, Ben Boychuk. That's why you're managing editor of American Greatness.
The president of Brazil?
The president of Brazil.
Oh, yeah, Jair Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro, thank you. Who said, Ben Stein, that it was brought on by China as a biological weapon. Now, he has said a lot of outlandish things, but this is one of those things. We haven't had a commission on how this has all started, and it makes me really curious why.
Very curious. I happen to have just finished watching a documentary about Joseph R. McCarthy. There are very few of you who are old enough to remember McCarthy. He had many, many hearings about communists in government. Some of his hearings were scurrilous and just smeared people who had nothing evil going on in their lives except that they were stupid. And that's all of us. But how can it be there's no hearings about this? That there are no hearings about a gigantic epidemic that has turned our lives upside down and kept us from being a free country. We are not, in my humble opinion, just I could be totally wrong, we are not a free country if we cannot see the faces of the people we're dealing with day by day. A face tells you everything about a person. I want to see the face of the people around me. If everyone's wrapped up in a mask, they might as well all be the Joker in some kind of evil, vicious, scary YouTube video. I want to know who I'm talking to, and there should be a very, very good reason why they're wearing masks. I'd like to see a committee hearing where we hear about that. I'd like to see that Dr. Fauci, so-called Dr. Fauci, explain what is your data showing that wearing a mask is actually genuinely helpful. One of these.
Ben, I want to go on a different path, though.
I beg your pardon.
We know at this point that they had committees on everything Donald Trump. So we know at this point one thing, that Trump handled it as well as somebody could, because if he didn't, there would be committees on how badly he handled it. Secondly, we haven't done one investigation into how this thing landed on us. And yeah, we haven't had one single investigation, and that I find very curious.
Very curious. Very curious. Ben, you're a man of considerable discretion. You have a beard. Tell us what you think. Why have there not been any hearings about this?
Well, as a bearded man and a bearded gentleman, I would simply say this. I think that the Democrats are not terribly interested in looking too closely at the role of China in all of this, because they're a lot friendlier with China than maybe most Americans would like. You know, up to and including Joe Biden, who has long persisted in saying that China is, how did he put it? They're good folks, I think.
Listen, we're not only blaming, let's not forget Bush saying, I saw in his eyes, right?
Oh, that was Vladimir.
Not Putin.
Right, no, I'm saying this goes both ways as far as their assessment of absolute criminals. But go on, Ben Boychuk.
Well, and also, I mean, I know there have been some, I think there's been, we have the authority of no less than the World Health Organization itself that told us that China's involvement was nothing. So surely we can take the word of the World Health Organization, couldn't we? No.
Why have we not just done what we would have done? As Judah so aptly points out, had there been a Republican administration involved in this in the most tangential, hypothetical way, hearing after hearing after hearing, why has no one looked into this at all? Why has no one looked into the fact that the national attention was diverted from this potential catastrophe by endless gossip, nonsense, libel, smearing of the President of the United States? Why weren't we thinking about this germ issue instead of gossiping?
Remzo, what are your thoughts?
I think we're past the point of all of this, and ultimately, I have friends who are Republicans who get mad when I say this. I've certainly, already angered all my remaining few liberal friends. But this was a political virus. I had COVID. I had the worst form of COVID. COVID pneumonia. And even after all of that, I still said, you know what? I'm okay. I didn't get the vaccine. I'm not getting the vaccine. This was a political virus. We don't talk about how many people died from the regular flu anymore. Everyone dies from this now. And now everyone is talking about, New York wanting to open up. Broadway just said they're going to go to full capacity. There are other very liberal cities that say, you know what, we should let people go ahead and actually eat inside restaurants now. So now, since they've been able to benefit from everything that Trump did, because Biden has done nothing, he did nothing regarding the vaccine or anything else, absolutely nothing. Now they want to get back to normal. And the only reason, in my personal belief, and I could be wrong, that they need to get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible and get all the additional vaccines and everything else isn't because it actually is going to do anything. It's because it's the last remnants of them saving face, that we were attacked by a biological weapon from China, and we allowed the Democrats to go ahead and hold the nation hostage in the greatest hostage crisis in American history. And
we're still being held hostage. We're still being held hostage. I mean, that hasn't stopped it. I mean, if you were to be, let's say, a high school boy in 1959, which I was, or the 62, and were taken away and put in a cryogenic machine and then thawed out now and see America as it is now, you wouldn't believe your eyes. People are not allowed to show their faces in a grocery store. People are not allowed to show their faces walking down a sidewalk. That's incredible. People can lose their jobs for having said anything that is disparaging about anyone that could be remotely associated with race or sex. It's insane. They would say that this was made up out of a horror movie.
I've got a funny story for you. So I had to go take. I had to take my car in to get serviced yesterday. So I had a friend drive me back home, and then when they called me and told me my car is ready for pickup, I said, okay, can you come and pick me up and give me a ride? And they said, okay, we'll send somebody out. So they sent an employee out to get me. He shows up. I get in the back seat of the car, and he's wearing his mask. And I was wearing my mask to be polite. But we're leaving my neighborhood, and it's about a 25-minute drive to the dealership. So I go ahead and take off my mask. I'm like, hey, is it a policy? Like, is there a problem if I take off my mask? And he said, nah, man, I don't care. And I said, okay, thanks. And by the way, if they're telling you have to keep your mask on, take it off, man. I don't care either. So he said, thanks, man, and he took it off. So we get to the dealership, and I'd like to tip this guy. I had to make a few calls. I had to make him roll the windows down and stuff. I wanted to be polite. So I said, hey, I don't have any cash. Can I send you money? So I went ahead and tipped him through Cash App. And I said, oh, you use Cash App. What are you going to do with the money? And he said, I'm going to buy Bitcoin with it. Full circle.
Circle of life, Simba. And on that note, Remzo, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat. Remzo, if you could please tell people where they could find us.
Dogecoin isn't real, but the subscribe button is. Make sure you hit it so you always get episodes when we go live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night. Please, we read each and every 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to this show. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to us on Rumble because our days here might be numbered.
Yes, especially after the conversations we are having here.
Wait a minute. If you are going to tell me that we can be canceled over talking about treatment of an epidemic, can you possibly be saying that?
Yes, of course. Donald Trump this week was banned, but was fully banned by Twitter and Facebook forever. They literally put him in social network prison for life. They castrated his every way of staying in touch with his supporters, not even his supporters. It's Ben, what they're willing to do, which takes me to the next conversation. And I want to do this in a roundabout way. We have 5 states right now that are banning private, Ben Boychuk, are you familiar with this? Private funding of the elections, of counting. Basically, we're having a bunch of Republican states fighting back right now, doing their own legislation. And it's an absolute joke, Ben Stein and everybody else, that every time they do this, they're being called racist, they're being called Jim Crow laws and all this jazz. And my question to every single one of them is, if you believe the elections were fair, why do you have a problem with these legislations?
Because we know what's going on here. We know that the system is set up such that certain groups, we won't say who, benefit from the way it's set up. fine, that's fine. There's been corruption in politics forever. That's fine. It's not new for there to be corruption in politics. What is new is the free speech aspect of it, where you cannot even talk about it. America has changed. It's not about newspapers so much anymore. It's not about rallies at the public square. It's about the internet, this thing that we're on right now. To ban someone from that is taking away his or her free speech under the Constitution. There's no question about that. I mean, the Supreme Court may not have the balls or the good sense to admit it, but it is a violation of the First Amendment for something as powerful as Facebook or Twitter to ban somebody from their use. So will they do that? I don't know. But if they don't, America's days as a free country are over. They're not numbered. The number's zero.
Ben Stein, would you call Facebook, would you consider Facebook and Twitter and even YouTube, while we're on the subject, would you consider them common carriers?
I don't know if I would consider them common carriers. Considering someone a common carrier has implications about the fares they charge. And I don't know what the fares are for the use of any of these media that you just talked about. But I think that if you reach a certain size, which could be decided by a judge or the justices of the Supreme Court, yes, you should be subject to the same laws that apply to government restrictions on free speech. The first, we have now reached a stage where the notion of speech has changed so drastically that the First Amendment should apply to it as well as to the government.
And Ben, I just want to bring this up. Ben, what people aren't just getting banned from social media, they're losing their ability to process payments, Ben Stein. Ben Boychuk, yeah, so Mike Lindell, somebody brought up, was banned from Vimeo, from Venmo, I mean, and a lot of people are losing their transactions.
Wait a second. They're being banned from being paid by.
Yes, process.
That has to be a tort of intentional and negligent interference with business advantage. That has to be a tort. I don't know if it's a crime. It has to be a tort.
Ben Boychuk.
I'll defer to Ben Stein on the legalities of it. But I was curious about that. I'm also curious too, what would be the problem with going after Facebook, for example, or Amazon is another one mentioned in this context, going after those large companies on antitrust grounds?
To me, it's clear cut that this is an antitrust violation. It's not even questionable. It's absolutely clear cut. And in terms of, but going to an even bigger question, are they so big and do they dominate free speech so much that they must be considered to be affected by the First Amendment? That is, to me, absolutely clear cut.
And what's the precedent for that? Wasn't there a case, and I can't remember the case.
I don't know what the precedent of is. Yeah. There is no precedent for entities such as the ones we're just talking about to have as much power in the public forum as the ones we're talking about now. There's no precedent for today's world of the internet. When the internet was invented by Mr. Gore, I don't think anyone had any idea that it would dominate speech the way it has. But now that it has, we've got to reel this fish back in, and if we don't, the fish devours us. Well,
there may be an analogous case or a case that's on point from and again, I don't remember the name of it, but I roughly recall the facts and the holding, which was that it was a company town in either Alabama or Arkansas, and it was decided in, I think, 1947 or 48, in which somebody was prevented from handing out political leaflets on a street, and the argument was, well, this is a company-owned town, and the First Amendment doesn't apply here. And the court said, "Oh, yes, it does. That a private entity cannot act in a sort of quasi-government way and abrogate people's constitutional rights."
I'd sure like to know the name of that case, and you know how to reach me, and please let me know. I will read it, and we can talk about it very soon. That's a very, very useful piece of data. Thank you.
So Remzo, let's circle back a little bit. This is circle of life, Simba. We all know Bitcoin, in a sense, was dark in the beginning. It was a way to transfer money in the dark. And what these companies are doing is essentially that might be the one way to prop Bitcoin up, is because it takes away companies from being banned. So there are a lot of politicians who have had access to getting donations blocked. You've had a lot of
Wait a second, how's that? Let's get back to that. That's a big one you just sort of dropped in the middle casually. What is that? Tell me about that.
Well, they're because of their political points of views, they aren't able to accept money in certain ways.
Paul Gosar, Matt Gaetz, there was Laura Loomer in Florida.
Laura Loomer, I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene have all had have had access to getting donations blocked by the process servers not being in lockstep with them.
I must say, how could it be that I read the Wall Street Journal every day and have not seen this story?
Yeah, because you want to know why? Because they're part of the problem. They're not part of the solution. Places like the Wall Street Journal, and they don't want to talk about the fringe, or what they consider fringe conservatives or fringe Republicans. They don't want to acknowledge that this issue is happening, and we're all saying it's happening. So obviously it's happening. So Remza, do you see as a bunch of people, you have a bunch of people that are scared to go to banks? Eventually Bitcoin will be a loan service too. So sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so going back when I was on my anti-crypto rage, I just want to specify, I repeat again, I don't own Dogecoin, but I do own Bitcoin. And the reason why I own Bitcoin is because I'm afraid that one of the next big things, and we're already seeing this now, is that people are going to lose access to not only money transferring capabilities, but also central banking services, checking, savings, and access to credit. And when that happens, it's going to go ahead and basically turn the whole system upside down. Bitcoin can't be destroyed. Bitcoin can't be created. Bitcoin can't be controlled by anybody. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are the only thing that are allowing you, other than cash, and we already see it, there's a war on cash in this country and throughout the world, that you can go ahead and give to anybody, and as long as you have access to the internet, that's the one thing, you can go ahead and give it. And, you know, going back to what we were saying, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin, the reason why I like Bitcoin versus others is that Bitcoin is truly decentralized. There will only be a finite number of Bitcoins ever mined or created. And if, let's say, you lose a Bitcoin, that Bitcoin's permanently gone. You don't get it back. You know, Bitcoin is actually what I consider the money of the people. Whether or not it's going to last or not, I have more faith in Bitcoin than other cryptocurrencies. So, you know, that is why I think, that's why I'm not going to say much more about it. I'm not an investor. You know, I'm not a professional financial advisor. I own Bitcoin because at the end of the day, I want full control of my money.
Okay, well, God bless you.
But Ben Stein, at the end of the day, while I agree with you on I understand your thoughts behind the Bitcoin stuff. We're almost at the point where, if you're a conservative in this country, and I bring first, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Remza, please tell people where they can find us.
Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher Play, Google. You can find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts the day after the show airs here on YouTube. Make sure to go ahead and find us on Rumble. That's The World According to Ben Stein Rumble. And if you need more of us in your life, go ahead and subscribe to Ben's newsletter, benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com. And I just want to point out, somebody brought up something that I was thinking about recently. They said land is money. Yeah, they can take land from you, though. They can't take your Bitcoin.
And on that note, it's a great point. Welcome back to The World According to Ben Stein. So I'm not sure if everybody saw this story, but I'm actually quite shocked at this. Saturday Night Live, which no one watches, told their cast members that because Elon Musk is on, they don't have to appear with him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what has Elon Musk done that would scare SNL characters to not be in a scene with him, or what has he done anything offensively? I can't in my wildest dreams think of a more Switzerland type of person in many ways than Elon Musk, that he might offend people from the Saturday Night Live cast, Ben Stein.
I just can't imagine it, but I think that show has been garbage since the late 70s. It was brilliant when it first came out, incredibly brilliant. It's been garbage for a good 40 years. And it obviously is run by people who do not have full control of their wits.
It's funny. Everybody says that, but I loved watching SNL when I was growing up with Dana Carvey and Dennis Miller and Phil Hartman.
Well, Dana Carvey is a genius of a stupendous work.
So I did love that cast. But Ben Boychuk, did you see the story? Because I was like, what did Elon Musk do that scared people from Saturday Night Live?
I've seen stories headlines of stories disapproving of his appearance. I don't really understand what the issue is, other than that does this just boil down to him saying kind of trollish things on Twitter? Is this a Twitter thing? I think it's a Twitter thing.
I have no idea. I mean, he has an opinion. He's a funny guy. He's the Barnum and Bailey of our generation.
Oh, I know what it is. He's appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's got to be it, right? Isn't that it? Is that got to be it? I don't
know. I mean, I'm asking. I can't think of one reason why they'd be scared of him.
I know what it is. I figured it out. It's that he takes too many subsidies from the feds. That's what it is. I think that's
funny. What are your thoughts, Ramza?
I really don't know. There's a reason to hate everybody these days. He pisses everyone off, and I think that's the thing, because they don't understand him. They don't think that he's one of them. He's got as many progressive views as he has conservative views, but apparently even being a moderate is a crime by today's standards. So, whether it's one thing or another, was he already on, or is he going on?
No, he's supposed to go on. So
I think I might watch that episode. I might watch it get SNL their best ratings in years.
Ben, he brings up a great point, is that as we've seen with award shows and all of these things, taking away the fear kills ratings. Having somebody on that might be a loose cannon is actually good for business when it comes to the media. And they've totally squashed that with award shows, with SNL, and frankly, where I think most people just think it's freaking boring.
It's beyond boring. It's incredibly offensive. It's slap in the face of the ordinary citizen. The endless contempt that is shown by Hollywood and the media generally for the ordinary American, especially the ordinary white American, is just breathtaking. And I hardly know where to start. And yet, I want to back off for a second. I was talking about this at lunch today with a very smart woman who handles real estate financings for me. And we both agreed, yes, things are heading down a cruel, awful path. But day by day, life in America is still incredibly great.
Yet you're still scared to get arrested in your car for your thoughts. So
I am, but I haven't been yet.
It's going amazingly well that you're scared of that.
If it's okay, I want to make a comment regarding somebody in the chat talking about Elon and Dogecoin. That's another thing. Like, I'm seeing far too many good, smart, rational people make irrational decisions when it comes to that Dogecoin right now, because Elon is jumping into it. Listen, I don't know why he likes it, really. I really don't. But what I do know is this. If Elon Musk loses a few $1 million, it doesn't hurt him. But if you lose even a third of your investment into that stuff, you're going to hurt, and you're probably going to pull out and lose more money. So before you start thinking, well, that rich guy is smart, I'm going to go ahead and do what he does, understand the risk factor. That's not worth it.
I don't understand something, Remzo. Is it not true that if I had put $10 into Dogecoin, say 2 weeks ago, I would be worth like $10 billion today? Am I
not $10 billion, but like I think somebody said, and I might be wrong, but it was like if you put $10 in January, you would have had like 100 grand right now, something like that. But here's the thing, though. That's how it is with everything that becomes a hot commodity. This is the new hot commodity. If you had invested this much then, you would have this much now. Jump in now. But that's the thing. By the time something is already hot, it's already left the stage.
Right.
That's what makes it so popular.
Well, that is how scams always work. I mean, I don't wish anybody anything but well, but this thing just has scam on it in gigantic letters. Yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want anybody I know to be hurt, but it's just a classic fraud.
And I just want to say that the founder of Dogecoin, who invented it as a joke, actually got rid of all of his Dogecoin.
It almost sounds like Dogecoin, okay? It almost sounds like douche.
I thought it was
like it almost sounds like this is a joke, okay?
Well, it is a joke, and the guy who created it didn't do it because he didn't want this fake money harming people. So, I mean, this is why, and this is just a Remso thing. This is just my choice. But I go with the Kevin O'Leary school of thought. I'm not smart enough than the world's smartest day trader. I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm just me, middle class me. So I want to invest in things I understand, in good, solid blue chip companies that create cash flow. I don't want to get involved with anything crazy.
Okay, so Ben, it's a great point, Remso. I love your knowledge on this, actually. I've never even heard of this damn thing until tonight. And if you had told me there's something called Dogecoin, I would have thought you were...
I thought it was called Dogecoin.
Yeah, I would have thought you were kidding with me. But Ben, one of the things people are bringing up in the chat is that he's not woke enough. And I think
who's not woke enough?
Elon Musk.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
No, we don't know.
Does he not have he doesn't have his pronouns in his profile, right?
Yeah, he doesn't. He's an equal opportunity if he has an opinion. Okay, I think that's what woke means, is that you don't have an opinion except the opinion of what opinion you're told. Opinion is an okay opinion.
And this is really getting into me in this brave new world. No, I'm sorry, 1984 territory in a big way. It's just terrifying. Does it mean he doesn't have enough African American employees? Does it mean he doesn't have enough fluid gender employees? What does it mean?
Well, none of us. That's exactly the point.
He doesn't virtue signal well enough. He doesn't pose well enough for these folks. That's what it means. It's all just a pose.
What's he supposed to? Well, let me ask you a question, Ben. Then what would he do to virtue signal properly?
Oh, I suppose he'd be genuflecting at every altar before Black Lives Matter.
Okay. So that's sickening. In other words, it's nauseating.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, you have the and so which leads to the next question, Remso. It's like and I'm not using this as a generational thing. Has this, because you're into comics, I'm actually really curious. Has this infested this wokeness infested your comic books?
Oh, 110%.
Oh, you're kidding, Remso. You're kidding.
Do you know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is?
No. Oh, yeah, I've seen the name.
Ta-Nehisi. It's
Ta-Nehisi.
She's he or she, whoever looks through a person, is a nutcase racist.
He's a racist. I would even call him a black supremacist. He lied about hate crimes being tossed his way at certain points in his life. I mean, he was a former New York Times columnist. Do you know that they made him a writer at Marvel Comics? They made this political and cultural commentator at the New York Times. They made him a writer at Marvel Comics. And here's the funny thing. They allowed him to write the Black Panther comic. In fact, there were two separate Black Panther comics that came out the year the Black Panther movie came out. Good movie, right? I liked it. I saw it twice. I own it. And it made all the money in the world, and everyone likes that character. He was such a poor writer that in the year that movie came out, both Black Panther comics got canceled. And to go ahead and respond to that, what did Marvel do? Marvel said, wow, he destroyed our most popular character. Let's give him Captain America. So they gave him Captain America. And since then, he has turned Jordan Peterson into a Nazi. He has basically said that Captain America is only Captain America because of his inherent whiteness, and that in the past 3 years of writing this book, it has been the worst Captain America run in Captain America comics history. But they don't care about making money. They don't care about making good stories. What they care about is winning social points amongst people who don't even buy their stuff, but will criticize them online. And they value that more than the people.
Turning aside to throw up as you hear this story?
No, I'm having
The
a coughing
punchline,
fit.
but the real punchline is DC is having him write the next Superman, the Black Superman movie.
Which is, I have been, nothing makes me madder than that. And here's the thing.
And he's going to be Kal-El too. It's a Black Kal-El.
Which is.
Are you guys joking?
No, it's all true.
Oh, and you know
Come
who's
on,
producing
you've been
it?
doing this long enough, Judah.
Apparently, we haven't been doing this long enough that you called me Jonah.
Oh, well, because
J.J. Abrams, who destroyed Star Wars, is going to produce it too.
It's going to be a train wreck.
So this is Marvel, right? Or
this is DC Superman.
Because my question is, because the head of Marvel is a huge Republican. So
he Perlmutter?
Yeah. He is. Ben, I know you're in shock about all this. So
I just keep thinking, I am so lucky that at least for now, at least one day at a time, I have a big house with a big swimming pool. The grocery store is very nearby. Places I can have lunch are very nearby. I'll run out of money eventually, probably tomorrow, but I don't have to be out there in this crazy effing world that you men are talking about. I mean,
it's frightening, right?
It seems quite sane here in my house.
I want to be, by the way, guys, get back to this because I'm actually mildly fascinated. Not mildly, I'm scaredly fascinated by what you're talking about.
I'll throw in something that Boychuk will appreciate because he's an Iron Man fan. In 2015, 2016, when Iron Man, especially as Robert Downey Jr., is the most popular character in pop culture, what did they do in the comics? They decided to temporarily kill Iron Man, and they replaced him with a character named Riri Williams.
Please don't tell me he's black.
She's black.
Riri Williams.
She's black. She's a teenager, and she's a lesbian.
Oh,
and
no.
I missed that part.
And that's new. That they recently threw that in there because she's getting a show. And she has no personality. She had no character development. They put her in there because they said, Tony Stark, he got all of this stuff, not because he's a hero, but because he's rich. So what we want to do is we want to share the mantle of Iron Man by making this young black lesbian teenager the new Iron Man. So they did that, and the Iron Man books crumbled. And then they eventually brought back Tony Stark, but first what they had to do was they had to deconstruct the character, and they didn't put Riri on the hero's journey. They put her on the victim's journey because she's young, she's systemically oppressed, she's poor, and she should be Iron Man because she's just always been that smart. So she's going to go ahead and do it. So that way we're just going to go ahead and kill Tony Stark in the process. They did that. It backfired. They didn't want to admit it, but they had to bring him back because the books were failing.
Ben, you know what I love, and I want to get to you, Ben Stein. You know what I love is how distraught and how knowledgeable Remzo is about this stuff. It's like nothing affected anything, but once it got to Remzo's comics, all bets are off. Screw you with your intersectionality. He didn't care. Remzo didn't care about any of this. But when it touched DC Comics and Marvel, Remzo is mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. But Ben Stein, aren't you fascinated?
I just want my corner of the world to be left alone.
It's not.
Me too.
They tread on me.
I totally agree.
Good. Yeah, Riri. Ben Stein. That's the point, isn't it? Though that everybody just wanted their piece of the world left alone, and it invaded everybody's piece of the world.
No. These nutcases out there in the world of Black Lives Matter and so forth, they don't want to be left alone. They want to shake us down.
I meant us normal folk.
Well, I don't consider myself normal at all, but they don't want to. They want to shake us down and make money off us and oppress us. I mean, it's just vomiting gangsterism. You guys scared Ben Boychuk and Remzo, who I don't know where you get your comic book knowledge. Is there like a comic book, like a notification you get every time something happens? Well, I think Remzo follows it closely personally.
Yeah, God bless you. I think it's
if you want to learn more about this, you can subscribe to my other podcast, the Second Print Comics Podcast, coming to you 2 hours a week every Wednesday.
It's good stuff. I'm a Patreon on Patreon.
And on that note, we are running out of time. Ben Boychuk from American Greatness. I won't say to you final thoughts because every time I do, I feel like I'm putting you on the spot.
No, just give me one sentence. The case that I mentioned earlier that I will email to you, Ben Stein, is Marsh versus Alabama from 1946, and I'll send you the opinion when we're done.
Actually, remember it from constitutional law taught by Bob Bork, one of the smartest men in history, murdered politically and juridically by that murderer, Edward Kennedy.
And to the people that might have just tuned in, Ben, why don't you quickly, in like 20 seconds, tell them what you're referring to?
An incredibly brilliant law professor at Yale, who was a Supreme Court of Appeals judge, Bob Bork, and then became Attorney General, was named to the Supreme Court by President Reagan. The Senate Judiciary Committee killed him, led by Edward Kennedy, a person probably of the worst moral character of anyone in the Senate since the Civil War.
Sorry, I meant Ben Boychuk, but
sorry, I beg your pardon.
Listen to the whole show, and you'll know exactly what Ben Boychuk is talking about. And you can find Ben Boychuk at
amgreatness.com. That's amgreatness.com.
And of course, you could find Remzo on the Run with Remzo Martinez, great podcast. And also, what's the name of your
the Second Print Comics Podcast? Find it at secondprintcomics.com.
Have you discussed this in your comic thing?
Both shows.
Both shows. Okay.
Both shows.
I think it's extremely important because this is one of the most frightening things I have ever heard in my life. It truly is. I got to be honest with you. It is just insanely frightening. And of course, you could find Ben Stein when Parler's actually working at Ben Stein on Parler.
American Spectator.
And thespectator.org, but also Newsmax. And listen, I want to just say quickly, if you're invested in Bitcoin, God bless you. Be careful. If you're invested in anything you're unsure of, God bless you. Be careful. We're not telling you to sell. We're not telling you to buy. We would not be.
I don't think we would be allowed to do that. We're not.
You can't sue me.
It's just our humble opinion.
Yes. And on that note, Ben Stein, I actually had a lot of fun tonight, even though I am sick. I feel a lot better.
I hope you feel better very, very soon, sir.
Thank you. And would you like to take us out?
To know him is to love him. Just to see him smile makes my life worthwhile. To know him is to love him. And I do, yes I do, and I do, yes I do, and I do.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you Saturday night. Have a